All right, our unit test is looking pretty good. We're checking that there's one item in it, that the item, well, is in fact a shopping cart item and contains a product with the name apple, because we've specified 3 apples, and the item also has a quantity of 3, which is as expected. We added 3 apples. We will also add bananas or something else in a different quantity in order to generalize our production code. But do you think we're quite done with this yet? I don't think so. I think there's something to be done in addition to what we've done so far. And it is simply this. As we're adding product into our shopping cart, there is another property or something else that changes or ought to change on the shopping cart. And it's the total property. As we're putting more items into the shopping cart, or even, the single item of 3 apples, we ought to find that we now have a positive total in our shopping cart. All right, so let's write the unit test for that. Cart.total.should.be. Well, what should the total be? The total of our shopping cart, the total amount, this total property, depends on the unit price of the product multiplied by how many of those products we have. So if it's 6 beers, it's like, and the unit price of the beer is $2, then it's $12 in the shopping cart as long as we've only got beers. If we've got 3 apples and each apple is, say, 35 cents, then 35 cents times 3 makes $1.05. So we ought to have $1.05 in our shopping cart. So why don't we just go with those figures? 1.05. And I want to make that a decimal. Okay, that's nice and good, but we also need to specify a unit price. Let's go quickly back to our design to refresh ourselves where the unit price sits. Okay, the unit price is something that comes with the product, which makes sense, An apple, unit price 35 cents. Lamborghini, unit price $300,000, whatever it might be, while the shopping cart item has that product and whatever the quantity is. So quantity at the shopping cart item level multiplied by the unit price at the product level makes the total in the shopping cart if we've got a single item. Let's go back to Visual Studio. All right, so we ought to be adding the unit price at the product level. So I'm going to do that now. I said 35 cents for an apple. I'm going to put the M there for decimal. And okay, product's complaining. So I'm going to go to product, the product declaration. Okay, so product, we are going to go with decimal unit price. Just leave it at that for now. We've got the items.add inside our shopping cart add method complaining. So we've got the product in our shopping cart item that's complaining. The constructor is requesting a unit price argument. So we're going to make that out of 35 cents. And there's 3 of those apples. Okay, that will work. Another problem up here, cart.add apple product. All right, here we're going to add the same 35 cents. The M for the decimal data type that this represents. Total dot should be 105. Why is it complaining? Total's an int. I remember now. We just set the total to be an integer because it was just 0 to start with for an empty shopping cart. And right now we want it to be $1.05. Okay, we've got a little bit of a problem here because we can't just put the formula in here. That wouldn't be aligned with rule number 3, whereby we ought to solve this in the simplest possible way. And to fix the production code in the simplest possible way so that our test now passes for 3 apples at 35 cents each, we need $1.05. However, if we now remove the 0 and we put in $1.05, okay, hold on, and I do have to change the data type. There's more. We've got a problem. Our 3 apples unit test will pass. However, there will be a unit test that will fail. So I'm going to run all the unit tests. Okay, so we've got a unit test here. When create cart, then total is 0. That is now failing. And it's failing. Expected cart the total to be 0, but found it to be 105 M. Isn't that interesting? So we have effectively broken our empty shopping cart definition. Okay, when we're creating a cart, an empty cart, then the total is 0. That no longer works. It's nice to have the unit test for that, isn't it? that, you know, we now know at least that it's broken. Time to fix it. We cannot just go ahead and set the total to $1.05. Alright, why don't you take a minute or two to think about how we can get both the 3 apples unit test passing on the total, as well as when we've got an empty shopping cart and the total ought to be 0. Just a little bit of a hint there. So when the shopping cart is empty, it ought to be 0, and when we've got something in the shopping cart as it stands at the moment, the total ought to be $1.05. Hopefully that will help. Please stop the video and I'll see you shortly. And how did you go? Alright, let me show you what I would do. Okay, I'm taking the total down to a calculated read-only property. So total goes to items.any, and when we have any items, then we'll say it's $1.05, else 0. And I've used the ternary operator here. To the left of the question mark is the condition to be evaluated, and if that works out to be true, we'll take the value to the right of the question mark, else to the right of the colon, and see how we go with our unit tests. So we'll just run all the unit tests. And the unit tests, as you can see down the bottom here, they are all green, which is fantastic. There is a little bit of tidying up we can do. Well, actually it's quite a bit of refactoring, and it's to the extent that I will make it the entire next video. So I'll see you shortly.